And we are live. We are live. Sabaho, everybody. Sabaho, welcome back to the show. I'm really happy that we're actually back in session, or back. The show is back. We had a week off last week for the Android Bay. As you know, I was spending it with my son. He had a competition or a swim meet that started actually, well, it was over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. So, as time goes on, just kind of a little bit of a heads up, as my son's competition future kind of goes through, forward, there may be some weekends where we actually have to skip and or maybe figure out a way of actually getting the show maybe airing on a slightly different day. I will say, first and foremost, Sabah to everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I have Steve. We have Dan, Grounded Tech, and then, of course, Lonnie's going to be catching it on the replay tomorrow. Welcome to the show. It is Saturday, March 26th. I'm like, wow, we're jumping into April. At the end of Q1 of 2022, and we're going to talk about a lot of the announcements that happened today and some of the things that have been going on as far as developments, things that have been exciting me this week. And of course, we have Robin, we have Jimmy in there, Sebastian Lobos, of course. Thank you very much, everybody kicking it in. It's been an interesting week. A lot of announcements, some announcements that weren't really specific, but then also a launch of a new device that was actually very exciting for me. And I'm still very excited about this device. And that's the Moto Edge Plus 2022 or the Moto Edge 30, depending on what market you're in. Same phone was released in different names in different markets, but at the essence, this is a Motorola intending to give us a flagship experience in 2022, in early 2022. And it was a very surprising device. And of course, my buddy yesterday got his device, which is the Edge Plus 2022 as well. And if you had a chance to watch his show, you would have seen how excited he was. So Juan definitely got a chance to to play with that one. So I'm very happy for him there. I see Greg is in there as well. Jimmy, have to pop in and out, a bit busy. No, absolutely, guys. And of course, Gerd is in there. Guten Abend, good afternoon, guten Abend, mein Freunden. Yes, kicking it with us here from Germany. The week has been interesting because we had a couple of announcements. So first and foremost, well, there's three announcements. Nothing did announce on the actual, well, they announced their intention to launch a phone in the summer, or a phone that we'll find out more about in the summer, but they gave us the intention of what the spirit of the phone is supposed to be. They also gave us an information that obviously there's going to be a launcher that's going to be coming out in the next month. Not sure what time in April, but we'll see how that kind of becomes a reality. But then there was also the, Realme also launched the Realme GT Neo 3, which was demoed at MWC 2022 while I was there in the show. The phone during that time wasn't fully vetted. It wasn't done. Like, there was no camera sensors on the back. It was actually literally a black slate in the back. But if you had a chance to catch my reel that I posted on Instagram while I was at MWC for the Realme GT2 Pro launch, you would have caught that. That was part of the show there. It was just, nicely tucked in there. Finn Jacobs, good morning. Sammy's in there. Hey, finally, thank you very much. And then Ron, of course. The other thing is Honor decided also to launch the Honor X8, not the 8X. This is specifically the X8. I know there is an 8X model that was released a while back, actually. It was more kind of like on their low budget end. And then, of course, the big thing, obviously, as I mentioned to you guys at the beginning, was nothing. Now, as far as device launches, the Edge Plus 2022 was announced about a month ago, like right before maybe MWC, but it finally became available to purchase. So as of, I think, was it Wednesday or Thursday? You're able to pick it up if you're looking to pick up a Motorola, and it was running at a promotion of $100 off. So it actually runs normally at $1,000, so $999, and that's what Motorola thinks is a fair price for it. But at the beginning, it's kind of like an early bird sale or an early sale, kind of like how Nokia likes to do it. Same way, kind of like how Realme does it, as well as some other companies that they have the early bird pricing. You get $100 off. So for $899 from Amazon, Best Buy, and Motorola's website, you're going to be able to pick it up, as well as Verizon. Now, Verizon had a different pricing strategy because that's the device I got. So the one we're talking about, obviously, is this guy. So this is the Edge 30 2022, a revamped, upgraded experience from Motorola with a very surprising feature that I didn't think I was going to be this excited about till I got a chance to play with it. So I pushed out a couple of videos this week. It's been a busy week. It's been a kind of a crazy week, actually. Dragon Goddess, hey, good morning. Welcome. Golan, hey, Golan Lavi, shalom, Golan. How are you? What was I going to say? So I released a couple of videos because this week, I'll be very honest, has been a crazy week. I did have some help with trying to provide content editing. I was trying to get help work with somebody. Unfortunately, timing wasn't working on their end, so we weren't able to work that out. Hopefully, we'll pick that up again in another week or so. But the long story short, that threw me off a little bit when it came to production. Day job has been super, super crazy. And of course, as you can imagine, things just took some time. But I did make sure to hit it with the Motorola's because it seems like it's a Motorola week for me. And we're going to talk about it today. So it's kind of like, nicely closed up in that way. Still using ColorOS. So Greg's running ColorOS 12 on his OnePlus 8. So he's been running the beta on that one. And I think he's been having some, interesting experiences. It's a beta. It's not going to be 100%. I see Dan. Hey, Dan jumping in. Been enjoying yours and Juan's desktop mode coverage so far. I'm looking to getting in my. So Dan's looking to get in on a Fold 3. Earlier this week when I was as I'm doing my day job, I usually like to, if anybody that I follow is technically streaming, I usually have them running on the top monitor as I'm doing my work on the bottom monitor. So as I was watching a show earlier this week, he'd mentioned that he was interested in looking into a Fold 3. So I'm excited to see what you think. It's a foldable, obviously. It's the larger format of the foldables. And of course, it is a very unique experience because it's different than what we get from smartphones. It's also not similar to what we've seen with LG in the past when it's two phones, exact phones that basically you just take and you're basically just opening them up and getting like a second case with LG devices like the Velvet and the V60. So I really be interested to see what you think. And let me know if you decide to pick up the pen for it as well. And if you decide to start using it, to actually use S Pen functionality on the Fold, since the Fold 3 does support that. Hey, Sam is in the chat. Sam, hey, everybody say hi to Sam. Haven't seen Sam in the chat for some time. Hope you're doing well, man. Hope you're having a great Saturday. The weather has been interesting here in LA, like seriously interesting. We hit 92, 94, and what that means essentially is like about 38 degrees yesterday, and we were in March. So it's weird weather. We go very weird. I know the East Coast is a very different ecosystem because we get sun, they get they get snow. That's typically how it goes. But Finn jumped in real quick with a quick comment here. It says, I saw your Ready for Video TK yesterday. I think DeX is still better than Moto's desktop mode, but Samsung should also implement the feature of using your device as a streaming device. So I'm with you on the fact that I feel like Samsung has a very good solid performance when it comes down to the desktop experience. I don't disagree with the fact that I feel like if I had to compare just the desktop experience, I will give that edge over to Samsung. But where I feel like the difference between the two is just from the user experience, right? What is it that you have to do to know that your system or your device supports this function? So for Samsung devices, you really need to kind of know that this has DeX and you have to look for it, or somebody has to tell you about it. Where with Ready for, at least with Motorola's approach, they're putting this front and center. If you plug your phone straight to your PC just to transfer your data, typically on most devices, you'll get a couple of options. USB charging, I think tethering, if depending on the phone if it supports it, but typically it's file transfer and Android Auto, right? Well, Motorola is doing is a little bit different. Motorola, right out of the box, tells you, do you want to launch a Ready for? It tells you that this feature is in there and it tries to push it. And I feel like this is where I feel like Samsung is a little bit in trouble. I'm not trying to make it sound like Samsung's, that Samsung DeX is dead. Absolutely not. I think Samsung DeX is a very robust system. The gesture supports alone for me are a big win. Because when I'm able to use my mouse pad to basically, minimize, maximize, jump into recents, open windows, snap windows, those are very functional features that I feel like Ready for is not there. But I think they're very close. And I think Samsung needs to feel that there's a little bit of a heat coming up. There's no longer them competing with Android 12 desktop mode or 10 and 11 desktop mode. They're competing with somebody that has a very robust system that is an international brand. Now, it may not be the number two. It may not be a direct competitor in that sense. But at the end of the day, when I look at it as far as kind of experiences between the two, right now, I like the fact that Ready for, when I connect it to my TV, asks me what I want to do. Am I trying to browse, or do I want to use the desktop experience? Do I want to play games? Do I want to make video calls? That's another thing. Using Wi-Fi video calls on your phone and streaming it straight to the TV, that's something that's very unique and something very functional. So again, I'm with you. I don't think Samsung is very... It's not as I didn't mean when I say is Samsung DeX in trouble. I didn't mean like is it getting canceled. I meant to say that they need to feel the heat and they need to start kind of working on developing new features and innovating in that field again. because I feel like this was something that was easily missed on their end. They could have done something very similarly, made it a little bit easier. To cast your phone right now on Samsung, you have to go into the notification panel and you have to use Smart View. I think they changed the name of it. It used to be screencasting, and now it's called, Smart View, where again, Motorola, everything's done from the same UI. I can do screencasting, I can do gaming, play duos or something like, all of those things I feel like are slightly a little bit more, I'm not going to say it's a much better, but I feel like they may have beat Samsung to the punch on providing a better UI, a user interface that maybe makes more sense a little bit. Golan jumping is, I wonder what you would choose, what you would choose from them. OnePlus 10 Pro or the Xiaomi 12 Pro or the Oppo Find X5 Pro. So I've had a chance to play with two of these devices for an extensive amount of time. So this is where the challenge kind of comes in. It's no surprise that everybody knows I have a OnePlus 10 Pro. I cannot talk about my experience about it yet. I'll say that at this point, between these three devices, if I had to pick one, honestly, I'll probably say the Find X5 Pro. And that device I've had for, I want to say, almost about a month and a half now. I had it sometime before the launch event, and I had an opportunity to take it, and I've tested it out. During my time at MWC, I was using the Find X5 Pro extensively. There's a big difference when you use a device to just review it and then necessarily move on, and to take it and actually depend on it to produce content while on the go. I used it on Project Fi. It was connecting and giving me really good speed. Upload speeds were really working very nicely for me. So the experience for me right now, the way I'm looking at it, honestly, I like the Find X5 Pro. I like the Xiaomi 12 Pro. That one does definitely get a little bit warmer. The ceramic material on the Find X5 Pro definitely feels better, and it does give me better thermal management because it doesn't actually let the 8 Gen 1 run, for the lack of a better word, loosey-goosey kind of thing. Just letting it just do whatever it wants. It manages it. And I feel like even with the throttle mode on, I haven't had that many opportunities. I felt like I need to turn on performance mode to get that on there. So out of the three, right now, it would definitely be the Find X5 Pro. And it's mostly because I'll say that my time with the 10 Pro has not been long enough, and it's hard for me to choose one over that I haven't had a chance to actually fully get into and actually enjoy. So I'll be able to share with you guys more, obviously, hopefully in the next week or so. But my goal is essentially to, you have to live with the phone. You have to use it. And one thing to mention, I never used the Chinese variant. I was specific and adamant not to import that version and try to experience a different version of a OnePlus that's intended for the Chinese market. And that's one of the things I wanted to actually, make it very pure. So hopefully that answers the question there. I think Xiaomi definitely provides a very great bang for the buck experience. The cameras there are definitely very nice. The Find X5 Pro definitely has a lot of bells and a lot of new options, especially the 5-axis stabilization on the camera. And night mode is definitely very, very good, especially nighttime photography with that. Excuse me, let's take a little bit of water. I don't know why I decided to pick up my OnePlus bottle. I've had this for literally like 3 or 4 years. Very nice, very good, very solid bottle. I got it in the UK for was it the 7 Pro? It was one of the launches in the UK that I got a chance to get my hands on one of those. So I was really, really happy about that. 93. Yeah, Greg's like, yeah, 93. It was that hot. It was really, really, really hot. I would have looked into the Note 22 Ultra, but it's running Exynos here. Exynos, I've been seeing a lot more and more comments, more and more people just voicing their opinion. It still seems to be a conversation. Exynos just does not perform well, and I don't want to compare it to the Qualcomm because it's not a fair comparison to a certain point, because if you're in a market for a Qualcomm, there's no Exynos option for you to pick up. And I will talk a little bit about the fact that, Samsung did release an Exynos, the A53 5G, that's coming up at the end of the month, which is in another week or so. That's going to be available here in the US. That one is running the Exynos 1200. So they are releasing an Exynos chip in the US, but when it comes down to their flagship devices, the Exynos is just not performing as good. So it is an issue. It is a little bit, something that needs more optimization. I think their software department needs to work on getting that device running as smooth as they should. I realized that in their home turf and in the US, Samsung releases Qualcomm devices. So I don't know if that has any influence into why the Qualcomm processor or the Qualcomm version of the device runs better. But at the end of the day, they cannot ignore the fact that the U.S. is not their whole market. There are so many more countries that use their products, and the S22 Ultra or the Note 22 Ultra is an international device. So they need to definitely fix that there. Dan is in there. I'm really digging in. I'm really digging your phone on the and on the Duo too, and that when I can launch launch multiple apps, dude. A buddy of mine, his name is Omar Dizer. He's a creator. He's a content creator in Arabic in the Middle East. And dude, throughout the whole MWC experience, he was using the Duo 2. That was his daily driver. That was the phone he was managing from, and it truly is a multitasking management, king. Running two devices natively, not having to split screen them all the time, makes it so much more functional. So for him, this was the tool. So absolutely, I think it's a great tool, and it's really nice to be able to see it in the wild being used actually for what it's intended, not necessarily just being showcased. So this is definitely very, very nice. I'm glad you're liking it there. Oh, I did not know that there's new animation. Well, hey, thank you very much for. Maybe we are reaching certain levels. We are itching, or not itching. We are getting very, very close to the 300 mark, which I think is really nice. The show itself is definitely finding its own place here on the Android-based show channel, and I'm liking the fact that we now have. I'll say this much: I miss talking to you guys. I miss having the show when I don't have it. So it was a weird. Like a sensation. Like I was, obviously with Omar, we're doing a whole bunch of stuff, and it was really, really busy. But at the end of the day, kind of like, when I'm thinking about like, man, I miss doing the show. So that's one of the things, if you guys had a chance to catch on Monday, I jumped in on, of course, with Juan Carlos on his SGTQA show. So it kind of gave me a little bit of a remedy combining my show a little bit with him, and getting a chance to kind of having like a little bit of a roundup, I guess, for the end of the week, since his is on Mondays and mine's on Saturdays. So for sure, very, very nice. Sebastian's Lobos jumping in. Samsung DeX is good. I don't have any way of connecting my phone to a monitor without having my laptop as a pass-through at the device. So you do need it doesn't just work with any monitor by itself directly. You need to have an adapter. So the best way I can probably recommend that, if you're thinking about it, Sebastian, is pick up something like, and I'm not going to say, let me see if I can show this correctly. Now this specifically is a one that I got with a MateBook years ago, but like an MHL to USB-C adapter. You don't need necessarily, it doesn't have to be a supported function of the monitor. As long as you're able to convert your USB-C connection from the bottom of your Samsung device directly to an HDMI, or in this situation, it has VGA. Like I said, it's an older one. That should fix the problem for you, and all you have to do is literally just launch DeX on your computer. Now, I love the fact that I keep forgetting. So Sebastian, you just gave me a great idea. So what I mean by this is, okay, so here's my S22 Ultra, Note 22 Ultra. If I just go ahead and plug it in, and I don't think it's going to work much, but let's go ahead and see if we can do this here. Okay, we're going to switch over to here, and I'm going to launch DeX directly from my phone. Is it going to work? Come on. Use Samsung Genuine Experience tool. Come on. Okay. Samsung doesn't want to start. I don't know why it's having this problem. Samsung DeX it's telling me that I need to use genuine Samsung DeX hardware. So yeah, go for it, Samsung. Make sure you gotta. I'm sure there's ways of going around it. I think maybe I need to just provide it power. But the long story short, I think the best way to do it, Sebastian, is just try to connect it to a smart TV. I think that may be your better solution. If you have a solid performance Wi-Fi connection, I definitely would think that works best. It works the way that you want it. It launches, the experience if you want to be able to connect it. And the best part about that is you can connect a keyboard, like a Bluetooth and mouse, keyboard, and you're pretty much running almost like the whole DeX experience, and you are working on a much bigger form factor. So I think that's a much better system if you can. Rogerbot, everybody say hey, Rogerbot. Rogerbot is kicking it with us here from Twitch, and of course hanging out with us. Matt Tyler got so speaking of which, Matt, the man, the myth himself, the Call of Duty legend here. So he picked up a Find X5 Pro, and he seems to like it. So we may have a phone that Matt likes. So I'm really interested to see what he says. At least he said he liked it on his stream. So, or no, it wasn't actually on his stream. I think it was during Dan's stream earlier this week. He jumped in and we were talking about the fact that he got the Find X5 Pro. So very, very nice. Yes, thank you for giving us a heads up on that one. Sam says I'd be open for a Find N, so an Oppo Find N. I'm all about foldables, dual screens, and lifestyle for now. So the Find N is that marriage between a Fold and a Duo in a way where it just makes perfect sense. It's the right form factor. Now, it doesn't launch applications automatically in split screen, but you can split screen very easily by running a 3-finger down, and it automatically shifts to that. And the aspect ratio is conducive of having two almost fully side-by-side applications similar to the way the Duo does it, but you don't have to have that line in the middle of your display. What I meant is, that separation between the two displays on the Duo isn't there on the Find N. So if you are considering that, I think that's a great option to try to move into that direction, Sam, of course. Okay, Golan jumping back says, Lou implies that there is a difference between the Chinese version and the global OnePlus 10 Pro. Do you know anything about that? So by definition, we know that they're not the same device. First and foremost, the band support. That'll be the first thing that I will say. That the version that you're going to get in the market that you're in will support, the correct 5G bands. They'll support the correct, if there's ultra wideband like Verizon or something like that. The devices released in the US will support that, or in the area that you're in. Obviously, first and foremost, Oxygen OS is going to be loaded on this guy. I got a chance to see that at MWC. So the device itself is more optimized to run. Now, when we're talking about specifically hardware, I doubt that they would change things from the sense of the hardware on the phone, because mostly it's not being rebranded. But I haven't had enough time to be able to spend on it to find any kind of things that I may be able to share yet. So hopefully, my hope is by next week or something, I'll be able to put out a video just talking about some of the main differences as far as me going in from a 9 Pro to the 10 Pro. And since we don't have a 10 this year, this is pretty much the only option or the only model that we're going to be able to see. So the 10 Pro is what OnePlus is going into 2022 with. So yeah, definitely we'll be able to see what some of those new ones are coming out there. We'll find out next week. Tune in next week for another episode of TK pushing things to next week because hashtag embargo. Yes. I am very thankful though that OnePlus was able to work with me to allow me to be part of the early wave. As you know, with things changing and everything going on and so on, I always make sure that the conversations are always open, but I'm always very happy and very grateful that companies are, taking a chance and working with me after, the separation from what we had with XTA at the end of last year. There's been some companies, I'm not going to lie, there is a company that has practically ghosted me, that will not respond to any of my emails. I don't know why. That I've worked with them for like almost 6 years, for quite some time on their devices. But at the end of the day, you know what it is? Life is about, people and who you work with. And, if somebody doesn't want to work with you, I guess you just have to move on, and hopefully one day we'll figure things out. But at the end of the day, what I will say is this. OnePlus is a brand that I was a big fan of theirs from the beginning. From the start, when they first released the Cyanogen phone, the Cyanogen mod phone, or the first OnePlus One, to where we are right now with the OnePlus 9 Pro, the OnePlus 9, all of the different iterations, the different ones, specifically the Nord line coming into the US. I feel like this is a great way for them to expand and start becoming a much more solid brand in the US. This year, it's a little different, but the reality is they're here. They're coming back. We're seeing the global launch hopefully next week. Not hopefully, it is next week. And I think that's the big thing that we want to keep in mind. It's something to actually appreciate what they're offering. So we'll see how that goes. Definitely. Davin Davis, thank you very much for kicking it with us, man. I appreciate it. Earl Owens, man, good morning. Sabaho, hope you're doing well. Man, he'll still get rid of it in less than a week. Matt, it's a serious problem. This is why I was actually excited, Sam. I mean, when I saw the fact that he got it and he said he liked the phone, because typically, Matt is a very, he changes phones faster than I do, man. I like the guy. I'm really cool, but I've just, like I said, first and foremost, I want to see what he thinks of it realistically. The Find X5 Pro is it's an interesting device because it did. Some people were not happy with the fact that it lost the microscope lens. That was that's. I guess some people really like that. It's a unique experience. But if you kind of keep in mind though, Realme kind of picked it up on their GT2 Pro, so it's not that it's gone. Just from an Oppo standpoint, of course. Oh man, give him five. Give him 5 days. You guys are messing with. Where is Matt to defend himself, man? Oh my God. Push next week. I am not. TK push next week. No, I'll be very honest. No, the reality is I literally, the day you guys saw the picture, I posted a picture on Thursday, I think. I got the phone literally the night before. And I wasn't able to even use that phone or even touch it because I was finishing up all my content on the Edge Plus 2022. So it was not really, that's what it is. I don't want to make a statement on something that I don't have enough time to fully understand the message that's coming up and what the device can and can't do and all of that stuff. So this is why, again, why I'm not trying to be dodgy and giving it to Greg. It's like TK pushing it, TK pushing it to next week. But yeah, no, for sure. I reviewed the Find N in the Chinese version in my country yesterday, and I wanted to point out that part of the ongoing typing keyboard, the device it is definitely an experience of the typing keyboard. Yes. I'm glad that you got a chance to check it out, Golan. This is definitely very interesting as far as a device. It isn't currently coming to the international market. I'm really hoping that OnePlus will be the venture, or OnePlus or even Realme will be the company taking that out of the Chinese market and bringing it internationally. As a device, like I said, it's the right form factor for me. It's not that big of a phone. In the hand, hold on. I mean, it's not like it takes me that far to find where it is. In the hand, it's actually a much more packable device. It actually fits the size, right? And when you open it, it actually is the form factor that you want. It's not too big. It opens up to the right form factor. And the division between the two displays is almost very, very thin. But when you're actually opening two apps side by side, it mimics the Duo 2 so closely that it is really almost giving you a full standard aspect ratio for an app. So you can run Instagram and Twitter, Chrome, anything that you want side by side, and you're going to get that experience very comfortably. And I think that's one of the reasons why I liked it so much. It's not that tall form factor that we got when we went directly with the Z Fold 3. It's a tall, skinny version that when you open it, you have to always show it sideways to get that similar experience out of the Z Fold, out of the Find N. So you can kind of see this phone has to go sideways to mirror, and this is where it becomes very functional. But to do so, you have that line going across your display, and in this one, you don't. It actually even has a much less of an presentation. It's almost hard to show, but you know what I mean. It's just definitely a very nice device. I'm glad that you got a chance to check it out. The Find N for me, honestly, is still my favorite foldable this year. Outside of the Z Flip is a great phone. It does its job. It does a great phone. It fits people. It just wasn't the phone for me. It's and there's nothing wrong with that. We need to accept the fact that we can't like everything, and not everything is going to work for us. But I definitely think that that's going to be the one Samsung sells the most on. Farhan is in the chat. Hey, Farhan Ahmed. Welcome to the chat, man. Greetings, everyone. First time here. I'm quite late to the party. Nah, dude. Welcome to the chat. And glad to have you on the chat. I saw you yesterday commenting. Just for the record, the reality is this. If you guys, obviously, I'm sure most of you guys, as you guys hang out with us. So Thursday night, I mentioned that I was releasing the video comparison between Ready For and Samsung DeX. That was something I've been working on. I've had the phone for some time. I've had an opportunity to play with them for some time. And the timing could not have been any better, where Juan gets the box, does the unboxing, does everything. Obviously, he got the same package I got. But I didn't get it through what's it called, the Snapdragon Insider program. I got it directly through Motorola, so mine has to go back. But hopefully, we'll see obviously way more conversation going on from Juan. So as soon as his live stream was over, my video goes up, and it looks like we kind of timed it together. And I'm like, honestly, pure coincidence. Absolute coincidence, but absolutely great that it actually, people kind of going from both his channel to mine. As a friend, I'll be very frank. Realistically, look, Juan was I mean, I knew about Juan from when he worked at Pocket Now, and I also from watching his content kind of knew where he lived because it was kind of a weird situation. We lived very close to each other at one point, in the area that he used to be, the bridge that he used to feature in all of his videos. That was like 5 minute walk from where I lived, so it was kind of like weird, like that we never ran into each other. But it has grown to be a very good friendship, and definitely he's one of the best creators I can definitely vouch and also know personally outside, online and offline. So it's very nice that we have somewhat of a shared community in a very big way that I like that very much. So what I'm trying to say is, for all of us here, obviously, very much thankful. I'm really happy to see that he's starting his new video production stuff, not just on reviews.org. He's kicking it up with Slick Deals. I don't know if you guys got a chance to check out his video. Really, really excited to see him produce content there with Trisha, which is really nice. So that's going to be really cool for both of them. Again, very, very cool creator as well as she is. So very happy, very good. And again, just always happy to have friends, and like you guys as well, kicking it with me every Saturday is, I realize it's not an easy thing, but it is nice to have the opportunity and the time. So again, thank you very much for hanging out with us every Saturday, even with the Android Bay, because I like this. I'm actually getting used to it now, the Android Bay. Yeah. Okay. So I think I'm super behind on the timing. Yeah, I'm about 6 minutes or so late. Hamid, أهلا وسهلا, أهلا وسهلا, السلام عليكم, أهلا وسهلا. I hope you're doing well. Matt is a picky eater. Can't find smartphone. It's a tough choice. Golan, absolutely. Yeah, Golan prefers the Find N over the Fold, and I think the reality behind this is Samsung needs to change the Fold. I think the Fold design has proven itself to be a functional design. A lot of people like it. But at the end of the day, realistically, I don't know how many people still feel that they need to turn the phone to get that and then the UI experience. So what we saw at MWC, not MWC, when we saw at CES, or at least I didn't personally see it, but I've seen some content creators that had a chance to feature them, some of them, basically Edabong from Board at Work. It seems like Samsung is working on different formats of foldable and rollable technology. So I'm hoping that they bring that into the Fold. I feel like a Fold 4 that looks like the Fold 1, Fold 2, and Fold 3 shouldn't be done. The planning, the ergonomics, and everything like that, I think we've reached the limit of that form factor with what Samsung does. Because foldables are new and you're able to change things, I really feel like this is the year where they maybe go to fold and roll, kind of like what TCL was showing at MWC, but I want to see something different. I definitely want to be able to enjoy that there. So Sony Xperia. So I'm on the lookout right now on the Xperia 5. So as you know, Sony Xperia has been pushing out Android 12 on a lot of their devices. Sadly, the Xperia Pro I is still one of the phones that did not get the update yet. So the 1 Mark III, the 5 Mark III, I think all of the standard models that we're going to get it should have been already receiving it. But as far as the Xperia 1 Mark IV, which hopefully that'll be the name, they could skip 4. I don't know. And you guys can maybe correct me in the comments. I don't know if the Japanese culture has a very similar experience with the number 4 as the Chinese culture. As you know, Find X4 doesn't make sense. That's why it didn't show up. OnePlus 4 also never made it as a phone because the number 4 in Chinese, from what I understand, from Dominic One, I think he mentioned it a few weeks ago, it has a very similar tone or a sound to the word death. So therefore, that the number 4 is typically not a number they use in device names or in names in general. So hopefully the Xperia 1 Mark IV will be coming out or we'll hear about it soon. Typically it won't be coming out till probably early June. It's what we usually see. So I'll say this much: no news yet, but if the Pro I is any indication, I think the Xperia 1 Mark IV are definitely going to be giving us a great experience. I know Juan and I are excited to see what they do with thermal management when it comes down to the 8 Gen 1, mostly with HS power control because of what we've seen. The Moto, there's a lot of great things to talk about. Realistically, this phone absolutely has a lot of great features on it. But the one thing that I really wished Motorola did was have a slightly better governor or a better management tool to allow us to throttle a little bit the experience on the 8 Gen 1 and not let it go so hot. I was able to hit 120 degrees. This is about almost 48 degrees Celsius on a phone playing Undead Horde. Now, mind you, I was playing it at 100%, but the phone shouldn't get this hot. There should not be a situation where the phone gets to the point where it's almost 50 degrees Celsius. That's a hot temperature. I know the Xiaomi 12 Pro, in some testing was able to reach even higher temperatures. And again, this is not a situation you should be experiencing. For the Edge Plus, the Edge Plus 2022, I do recommend picking up a case. Definitely need a case if you're going to be playing it and using it for gaming for extended amount. And I'm talking about like half hour to 2 hours, which is typically what I do if I'm like just waiting. An example would be this. Like last night, I was waiting for my son to finish his swimming. Those are typically, and it takes about an hour or so to finish that. I'm on my phone playing games. That's the perfect time, right? I'm by myself. There's nobody to bug. I can play the sound on the speakers. I can enjoy the content. I can play the games. And this is something that you should just not have to worry about when it comes to these temperatures. The Find X5 Pro does a really good job of thermal managing the device. I think OnePlus is going to definitely be continuing that. We saw that with the 9 Pro, with the Android 12 update. So definitely things like that. I'm really looking forward to seeing. But the 12, as a device, Motorola needs to have better management of the temperatures. They may be dissipating the heat and the phone's not throttling itself, but again, the 888 and the 8 Gen 1, they need help. They need a little bit of help. Greg's like, I'll trade you to my Nexus 6, which I'm still, yeah. The Nexus 6 has been this device, mythical device in my office that I cannot find, and it is crazy that I can't find that phone. Dan is jumping back. I'm definitely about the Xperia 1 Mark IV this year, hoping for some sizable upgrades. I think it'll be interesting to see what they do. Will it be a bigger upgrade, meaning shifting into something like the 1-inch sensor that we saw on the Pro I, or will it be more doubling down and focusing on multifocal lengths? Giving us what they gave us with the 1 Mark III, with the 4 different focal length. I think it was at 16, 24, 70, and 105. But again, it changed. On the Xperia Pro I is where they gave us the really nice thing. They gave us 16, 24, and 50. That magical 50 millimeter lens equivalent, which a lot of creators like a lot more. And I want to see display. I want to see the external display functions supported on other devices than just the Pro I. I don't mind. I'll take that back. I like the fact that the feature is existing. I like the fact that the feature is on the Pro I. But the reality of the matter is that function or that accessory, I don't see a reason why this couldn't work on any of the other Pro, the 1 Mark III, or even the first generation Pro. We need to have more functional accessories, and I feel like Sony is the only one. Like first-party accessories from Sony are really good, and that display makes a life of a difference to use the main sensor on the back. So for sure, the Pro I is a big, big win. And again, I'm waiting for Android 12. I want to do, like, as soon as that drops, expect a whole bunch of content from me on the Pro I, pushing it to the next level for sure. Gen 1 Plus. So, hold on. Sarvan's jumping in real quick. Sorry, 1 second, Hamid. Sarvan, hey, Sabaho TK. Did you return or sell the S22 Ultra? S22 Ultra Exynos is weird this year. So no, the S22 Ultra is still here. The Note is still here. This is realistically, I was hoping for an S series, and the last update that they pushed did make things a little bit better overall in the experience. I was having some issues with the software. At the end of the day, realistically, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I will be transitioning over to the OnePlus 10 Pro, and that's my main intention. That's typically what I use for the most part. So, although the S22 Ultra or the Note 22 Ultra is the main de facto comparison point right now, I have to keep those because typically those are the higher end models of things. I typically like to keep those. And then we'll move on. But more than likely, yeah, at some point, as soon as I get comfortable with the OnePlus 10 Pro, that's pretty much going to be where I am. I love seeing what we have, like the Pixel 6 Pro. I still use that as my main business device because that's the phone I like to have. It runs really, really nice. The latest update with the feature drop, I liked it, and it still works really good. The fingerprint sensor has been good since December with the December update that got recalled, although I did install it on mine before it got recalled. So overall, I think at the end of the day, Samsung does good in a certain specific market and what they try to do. This whole bringing a Note to the S series, it's making the S series users, they're forcing them to use a Note, and I think not a lot of people are going to do that. For me, I learned my lesson, and from more than likely we'll be sticking to the S series from now on. So here's to hope that the S23 Ultra is an actual S series phone, or maybe Samsung's going to try to just release the S series later and call it the Note. I don't know. Samsung sometimes gets me a little bit confused, at least this year. Hamid, the 8 Gen 1 Plus from TSMC. Yeah, man. The reality is this. Typically, the Plus SoC is an overclocked or an improved version of an existing SoC. So it's still going to be 4 nanometers. I don't foresee the Plus being a better thermal managed device SoC. The reality is Qualcomm's approach to the 8 Gen 1 and the 888 is very specific. Look, we're giving you this architecture. We're basing it on the Cortex ARM X2. This is what we're getting there. And they specifically told me when I was at their event back at the end of the year last year, they were very clear with, we're giving the parameters to every single OEM on how to manage the 8 Gen 1 and how to provide the best experience. So far, okay, Oppo's been doing great. I like their approach into it. It's a little bit throttled. I agree. It's not running full potential, and you definitely need to be able to turn it on. Samsung is actually surprisingly not doing too bad with the Qualcomm on the 8 Gen 1. It's actually, thermally, it's been decent on it for me. Although for me, at the end of the day, I don't typically play that many games on the S21, the S22 Ultra. I do typically play the games on other devices, as those are the ones I typically live in a little bit longer. So the long story, what I'm trying to say is, some companies are giving us full potential. Again, Xiaomi, the 12 Pro is definitely full bore. You get everything in that and at full power. And you may want that. Motorola does the exact same situation. They're giving you the full potential of the 8 Gen 1. And I think those are the things that you want to kind of keep in mind. The Realme GT2 Pro did very much a similar experience. Although, I'll say this, the GT2 Pro did not break 41 degrees Celsius for me on any of my games. So, which was surprisingly the experience. It stayed thermally managed. The gaming was running a very good experience. So I don't know if this has something to do with the Oppo software, since technically Oppo, Realme, and OnePlus are utilizing ColorOS as the backbone of their systems. So we'll have to see. But at the end of the day, this is so far my experience with the 8 Gen 1. It depends on what company you're getting it from and how their approach is to managing this SoC. But I also think we need to have third-party accessories to start helping us with cooling, especially for companies like, say Motorola, to help cool some of this so that we're not hitting a situation where we're starting to melt certain things on our devices. So, Marilyn, Sabaho, hope you're doing well. Thank you. Glad to see you jumped in. Steve DeRoche, good morning. TK the slacker. Yeah, the stalker, man. I'm going to keep it clean here. Juan is on a sick deal. Yes, he has a sick deals with slick deals. Oh, no, sorry, you meant slick deals. My mistake. It is sick. It's a sick deal for him. At Grounded Tech, same here. Okay, so I think I'm honestly not sure how to feel about rollables. Rollables are going to be interesting. Oppo had one. I want to say LG showed up one. Well, not showed up, but showed it on camera. Nobody ever saw that. And TCL was supposed to have one as well, like last year or so. The reality of the matter is, at the end of the day, it's a format that has some merit, but I feel like rigidity is going to need to be a big factor there. And I feel like that's what was some of the concerns in the past. But a fold and roll, a phone that does both, may give us enough of a flexibility where you don't necessarily need to roll it as much, but maybe unfold it to use it. So something to that effect. Sarvan, nothing event didn't interest me. Hope it is good when it launches. All I want to see, all it wants is basically custom ROMs, beast from nothing like the old Nexus generation. Let's talk a little bit more about the Nothing launch as well. Yeah. The launch itself was really more of an announcement. It wasn't a launch. They didn't really launch anything. They made, well, I'll take that back. They did technically launch there's a launcher and there's a phone announcement that they made. The launcher is going to be coming out next month. So April is what they said, to a specific number of devices. Although I'm pretty sure that the moment it's released is going to be ported to everything because it's a launcher. Again, there's no real compatibility other than presetting that function in the Google Play Store and say that it should not be installed. But it doesn't mean that it can't be ported. Long story short, the phone that they announced is the Nothing One, the Nothing One phone. The approach to what they're using here is they're gunning for Apple. They're gunning for the biggest company in the market. And I'm not trying to give validity to Apple's stance or where they are. I'm just explaining their philosophy and what they said. There is a link to the live stream for the announcement below here, below in the description. I feel like the entire announcement was a call to fund, to help get them money to progress, to move forward and be able to launch the phone. I can tell you from the development side and working with other companies over the years, knowing how long it takes to make a piece of hardware exist, the Nothing Phone 1 already exists. It already exists as a phone. If it's in a mock-up, if it's in a demo, if it's in an early prototype version, it exists because that's how they were able to sell and get more companies to support them to get to where they are. But they need a little bit more funding to get them through to the end to be able to provide this and make this device a reality. The promises that we got was a industry-changing and industry-revolutionizing device, typical to what everybody wants to hear that. They're saying that the current market is not very, it's not very exciting anymore. We're stuck in this whole, rectangle format, phones and so on. But then again, the launcher that they have is also fitting on devices that are rectangular, so it's a little bit kind of back and forth. What we see is Carl Pei at his best. Carl Pei building up excitement, building up enough enthusiasm around the product and getting people to talk about it. And I think that's what happens. That's what we're doing. I'm talking about it right now. So what he did is a success. Absolutely. I don't disagree with what he's doing. I understand what he's doing because he's done it before with OnePlus. Again, when you see the same trick twice, it's kind of like Goku, right? If you guys ever watch Dragon Ball and you see how Goku performs and how he does well, Goku's biggest thing is this. If you come at me with a new technique, a new method, and a new something, and I fall down and I get back up from it, I have learned that method, and the next time I see it, it doesn't work. And what I mean by this, not to say that I don't fall and I'm not following what Carl is doing. I understand what he's doing. I understand the direction he's taking us with him on this point. That's what I'm trying to say. We've seen it before. It is what it is. My hope, and I really, really hope so, that we don't build up the anticipation for the Nothing Phone 1 so high that when it does deliver, it ends up being an underperformer. And then all we end up hearing is a lot of people just basically, say, well, it didn't do this and it didn't do that and it's missing this and it's not going to go. Judge it for what it is, judge it for what it's promising, and judge it for what it can do and what it has on day one. That's what we should start looking at it. And I think we need to understand the promises that are being made is an industry revolutionizing approach, working with other companies, but they're also sidelining all of the other OEMs in the Android industry. We know it's going to run Android, but we also know the fact that they don't think they're going to compete with Samsung. They're not going to compete with OnePlus and Oppos and Xiaomi's and all of that. Companies that have been around and not only exist, but have a very big slice of the pie when it comes to smartphone technology. So this is why I was very skeptic. I was very much a skeptic when it came down to the expectations. I'm setting my expectations below and basically expecting a device that is trying to be a new device that's trying to break into the market, kind of like what we saw with OnePlus. And I hope that we see some enthusiasm around it because, pricing is going to be a big factor. Availability is going to be a big factor. Functionality and of course, adaptation to the existing ecosystem is going to be an even bigger factor. So we'll see. I do apologize. I know I kind of went on and we're running a little there. Pixel face makes it. I'm not sure, Hamid, which pixel face were you referring to there? Chemi's in the chat. Hey, man, good. Hope you're doing well. Okay, here. Finch jumping back. TK, have you ever tried any oleophobic coating kits? No, actually, that's interesting. I've had devices that have had oleophobic, basically a layer of oleophobic treatment done on them, but I've never had them actually as kits. I want to reapply the coating on my phone, but all I find are liquid glass screen protectors, not the same from what I'm looking for. So it's a tough. I know of companies that do them professionally, but they do charge a premium price. It is a little bit hard to try to reapply, especially if you feel like the device doesn't have it anymore. It is typically a liquid the way it's applied, but it has to have the correct curing after it for it to stick. So it's not just you don't just paint it and it sticks there. So unfortunately, not enough experience with them afterwards for me. I typically keep my devices in cases, which is weirdly one thing I need to get for the Edge Plus. I don't have one there. Let us know if you get the 5G, if you get 5G on T-Mobile using the OnePlus 10 Pro. I wouldn't be surprised if we'd be able to get 5G support in the US. It's coming to the US. So if you think about it in that sense, it has to support 5G in the US. I don't know if it's going to support. So this is where the difference is. I need to see how that works on ultra capacity, the new T-Mobile ultra capacity bandwidth. So as you know, T-Mobile and Sprint merged, and basically T-Mobile is the name of the company now. So T-Mobile's 5G has two categories or three categories now. It used to have low band, which is very similar to 4G LTE, and that's what 5G used to be on T-Mobile. After they started activating the Sprint towers or the Sprint technology when it comes to 5G, 5G on Sprint was mid-band. Ultra capacity is what they're talking about. This is closer to the 400 to 700 megabits down, where right now we're like around the 100 to 250 type of experience. And then, of course, they do have technically ultra wideband, but they're very small areas, not very big in the US. And for that, it's even a smaller representation. So in the US, if they typically, if they follow what they've done in previous years, the unlocked model is typically going to support 5G across all sub-6 5G technologies across the carriers. And I think it's the ultra-wideband one that typically will take a little bit longer with Verizon. And that typically is what part of it is basically getting a Verizon certification. If it gets released on Verizon, that's the only thing that holds it back. It's the certification. And that's because typically Verizon has a little bit different requirements of what their devices need to do to be able to support the ultra wideband. That one may also have a special modem built in there. Finn says, also, I've tried the Note 22 Ultra in the store this week. It's quite chunky in the device, almost 2 times my OnePlus 7 Pro in terms of thickness. Yes, absolutely. It's for the 7 Pro is still a very nice device. Although it's a larger device, it's technically smaller than the 9 Pro from from last year. The overall experience, I feel like you really need to have a need for this. You really need to have a need for this to make this device make sense. Because at the end of the day, the reason why I don't go to Notes, my wife loves to use the Note. I typically have a very good, I like the form factor of the S series because it's more rounded. It's typically slightly thinner. It's just, that's what it is. I mean, I'm glad they put in a 5,000 milliampere battery again into a Note. But it's one of those things I feel like, you have to really like that function. And otherwise, you're kind of out of luck for this year because there is really no S series. There's no S series Ultra in 2022. The Note is not an S series. It's a rebranded name. It's a way for them to try to combine their Note fans and their S fans together. And I think what they ended up doing is alienating their S fans because the S fan doesn't want a Note. The S Pen doesn't want a more sharper edges. They don't want the S Pen in there. They want the faster charging. They want the bigger battery. Typically that's what you used to get, right? You lost the S Pen, you get a bigger battery, you got faster charging, a whole bunch of things that I feel like it's a very different approach. We'll have to see. But again, if you like the Note, jumping in. So Marilyn says, I'm very happy with my Note 22 Ultra. And that's because, again, if you're a Note fan, this is the device for you. And it works the way it's supposed to be. What we had last year was a lack of a Note update, right? There is no Note 21 Ultra in 2021. We have one now, and that's the S22 Ultra or the Note 22 Ultra. So it works perfectly. And this could be a new trend from Samsung going into the alternating experience by just giving us a Note every other year and an S every year for the Ultra series every other year. I think that'll be a good approach. I think I like it very nice. Maybe 5 nanometer or 4 nanometer is not good enough for cooling yet. 6 nanometer, 7 nanometer seems to be more stable. Absolutely. The structure of the devices need to have. So the problem with the cooling is this. It's not just a cooling technology that gets added to phones, because we see devices that get released. And the biggest thing that I think companies focus on when they're talking about managing the temperature on a processor, they think of it on the hardware side alone. And I'm with you. I realize the temperature the reason why we have the temperature is because of the configuration of the system, but it's also because it's a physical thing, right? So they focus on that. They put in a cooling or vapor chambers or graphene and all of the different things in there. But when you start looking at it at the end of the day, the 8 Gen 1 and the 888 both need software management as well as hardware management. Games need to start working and understanding and optimizing for the processor. I feel like Genshin Impact, Undead Horde didn't really optimize for the 888 and the 8 Gen 1. They're treating them the way they were treating devices on the 865 in prior years, where they were able to get better thermal temperatures because the device wasn't running as hot. So when we jump into these devices this year, so if we can keep in mind, it's been a year, over a year at least, of seeing devices run the 888, and we knew what happened there. the next year comes around and we're looking at the 8 Gen 1, same story, different year. But companies are not focusing on providing software and better optimizations to let their games run better at a higher frame rate without pushing the system to its limit. So it's a dual conversation, this dual point conversation. Software and hardware need to work together. Materials on smartphones need to change a little bit to kind of get better at dissipating the heat. Maybe we do need accessories included in the box to allow us to maybe allow the hands not to be touching the device. The Motorola Edge 2022, after when it did get to 120 degrees, I had to put it down on the table, and that was the reason that it reminded me to basically go check out and pick up my my temperature gun just to see how hot it got. It's one of those weird situations. You got to do that. So for sure. الغريب هلا. Okay, welcome. Salam alaikum. Ahlan wa sahlan. I'm getting a lot of cool. Okay, so I first and foremost, very happy for everybody kicking it with us, but I'm also very happy to see some of my Arabic followers kicking it in or coming in and jumping in here. So أهلا وسهلا لأي حدا بيحكي باللغة العربية وشكرا جزيلا على أنه جيتوا معنا بتتحدثوا معنا اليوم. So thank you very much for everybody. That's what I just said that speaks Arabic, and thank you for joining us in the conversation today. It was a statement about nothing. It was a statement about nothing. David Burns, man, hope you're doing well. I love it. It is. It was absolutely. It was a statement about nothing. And that's what we had. We had a nothing statement about nothing. And Carpe is a... man, oops, sorry for hitting the microphone. Carl Pay is the master of hype. Seriously, man. I met him in person in the UK during my event, during my coverage that one year. And yeah, man, seriously, absolutely. I'm a big fan of his. I'm an absolute, I'm always in awe in what he's able to do. But like I said, it's harder to kind of run the same shtick twice on the same group. You kind of have to also understand. So don't get me wrong. I love where OnePlus is right now. And I love the fact that he was part of that story. I want to see him succeed again. But again, I don't want to make sure, I want to make sure that we just don't over set our expectations so that literally it end up being, well, they didn't, and then insert line there. So we'll have to see how that goes there. Everyone, good afternoon. Javier Hidalgo, hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well. So Marilyn actually has a good point here. They should have left the note with its name and and gave it always been better note users. I think that would have been much better to try to kick it up with 2022. Don't get me wrong. They want to release the Note 22 Ultra, release it. But just don't call it an S and try to make it sound like you're upgrading to the next S version. Like the S incorporated the S Pen because that's how the S is evolving. The reality is the S shouldn't have it and the Note should have it. They spent years training us and working and getting us used to the two ecosystems. And I think that would have made perfect sense. Release the Note 22 Ultra this year and release the S23 Ultra next year. People know what to get. If they're upgrading, and they're going to typically upgrade every 2 to 3 years, if maybe even longer, they know what to upgrade to. They know when their cycle is going to come up to be able to upgrade to so that they don't have an issue. But now every S user up to the S20, all the way up to the S21 Ultra, when they're upgrading and they say they want to get the best S series phone in 2022, they're going to be like, well, wait a minute, I got to buy last year's phone now? Because this year there is no S22. So yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, so flat displays are very interesting. So Gerd is actually saying, I wish the Note 20 Ultra had a flat display. The Note 20 had the flat display, and that's how they did it. They gave the 20 the flat display, the Ultra, they gave it the curved display. It's tough. It's tough. I can definitely appreciate, I'll say this, gesture support and functionality on a phone when you have a non-curved display is much simpler. This is one of the reasons why I really like this option. I'm also kind of interested to see what happened to the OnePlus 10. The OnePlus 10 used to be the flat display, although the last couple of generations of the standard OnePlus devices did not have that. But there is a big appeal. Some people don't like curved displays, and rightfully so. You need to pick to the phone, stick to a phone that makes sense to you, and don't pick the phone just because it's being given that's what it is. So I'm with you. I wish they did give us a couple of other options in there as well. Did I actually make it all the way to the thing? I think oh, okay, great. So I think I'm not too far on the comments. It's either that or StreamYard decided to take a break on loading comments. Tech Tablets was quite displeased with the Exynos S22 Ultra. It's a tough device. I really think it needs to have better optimization done from Samsung. It really, at the end of the day, when you're putting the device comparison head to head to any other generation or any other phone that's been released before, I feel like this is one of the biggest concerns. Optimization needs to be performed. And I know the phone isn't technically that, it's not that old. We've had it for about a month now, retail edition, not reviewers. Mine is a retail unit. We should have been receiving updates. And honestly, Samsung, for some reason, when I got my unit, had a February 1st security patch update. And I didn't get, no, I take that back, January 1st security patch update. And then I didn't get a February 1st. I ended up getting the March security update in the middle of March. So the update cycle is a little bit off. And again, my unit is a T-Mobile variant, so it takes probably even longer to get the updates. But we'll have to see how that kind of goes. Finn, I'm with you, and I know what you feel like. I kind of almost did that this morning to myself. I think alternating between the S and the Note series each year would have been a better idea. I think it's a great idea, mostly because of the reality of how people just buy. I think Samsung's pushing every year. It's like pushing a Lamborghini every year. Nobody's going to buy the Lamborghini every year. First, it's too expensive. Second, it's more than likely going to be iterative. If you go year by year, you're not going to see that big of a jump. If you do every 2 years, you have a better opportunity of surprising people. And that could actually get them back into the fold, no pun intended, of getting things in there in the right order for people to upgrade at the right cycle. I feel like just don't change the names for the sake of the name. Make it, just tell people what they're getting. You're going to get a Note 22 Ultra this year. Next year, you'll get the S23 Ultra. That's what you need to do. I'm with you. Michael Corrigan is saying these companies continue to use curved displays on their premium products. Samsung, Google, OnePlus, they must sell well because of in component sections on social media. People are always complaining in the comments. Sorry, the difference between the two is, I'll be very frank. A curved display looks more appealing on a display, on a table. If you go into a carrier store and you're looking at devices, we all grew up, and I think about it, we've all used flat displays for the longest time. So anytime you get a curved display, it was used as the higher end model differentiating feature. You saw the phone, you knew exactly that this was there. The biggest thing that I always look at a device, like the iQOO, I'm borrowing the iQOO from Juan. This is still, it's running a curved display, and you can see that, like, on the phone on the side, you could see the curvature going in, and you can tell. And I think they're trying to feed into the conversation saying curved displays are a premium. You don't get those at the lower end, and therefore you should automatically be able to recognize a premium device by looking at the display. But at the end of the day, the reality is, I think there are some concerns, ghost touching on the side. I think the devices need to be optimized. Software needs to be done correctly. And Samsung actually using Good Lock has a very good, like, there's a module in there called the One-Handed Operations Plus that gives you the ability of actually customizing those sidebars to do way more things. But they also have another module in Good Lock that disables I think the ghost touching on the side so that you don't accidentally activate something on the display. It's a challenge, but again, at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of fans of flat displays still. A lot of people still love those in there. And again, like I said, Maryland coming in. I prefer the slight curve, which is what we're seeing. The curve is not as pronounced as it used to be. The last phone that I ever saw that had a very interesting, like an almost 89-degree curve, it's almost like a drop, was a Huawei. I want to say that was the Mate 30 Pro. And that was just the feature of the phone. That's how they wanted to, differentiate themselves. It was a curve that just dropped. And it just gave you that appeal. But again, they were using the curve as the volume rocker. If you remember, that was the phone that they decided to remove the volume rocker and make it into a software feature. So you have to kind of double tap on the side, and then you just slide up and down. That became the function up there. So it's a different thing that you want to kind of keep in mind. It's depending on what you're trying to shoot for. There has to be obviously a market for it. Flat panels all day, all the way. Farhan, definitely, I'm with you. Okay, hold on. So Jimmy Fire Dragon saying, did you use the 10 Pro or is it on pre-order for one? Okay. So there is an interest. What is it called? It's not a pre-order. It's putting $1 saying that you're interested to pre-order the OnePlus 10 Pro. And what that is doing essentially is just letting OnePlus know how many people are interested in the 10 Pro when it comes out. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the launch event is going to give us more of the details of where things are going to be and how much and all the good stuff. That's the other thing I want to really kind of look into. What is it going to be as far as when it comes down to their strategy? Where is it going to be available? How many carriers are going to have it? What type of devices we're going to be looking at? All the different things that we typically get from OnePlus every year. So at the end of the day, there is those two options. If you are interested in that, just go to oneplus.com. It's going to be probably the first thing you see. You can put in your you can put in $1 to show interest in it, and I'm sure they're going to have a pre-order come up. Like I would imagine probably the same day, or maybe a day after or so, as they typically have. But more than likely, I'll be very frank. As much as all the things that people have covered on the OnePlus 10 and the OnePlus 10 Pro, I think the initial release, the initial batch that's going to be coming out, if you're at all interested, it's going to sell out. There's no question. I don't think they're releasing the same number of devices that they've done. Companies are becoming more conservative in the number of devices that they're able to release at launch. They don't want devices to sit on shelves. So if you're interested, make sure you put that in there so you can kind of lock in yourself, at least in the initial phase. If you're willing to wait, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to get on there. Finn is on both sides. That's actually a decent experience. I personally, I'll be very frank, I'm a little bit indifferent between the two. Do I prefer one over the other? Not in a specific situation. It's not like one has more function than the other. The reality at the end of the day, it's a preference. I will say I find it much easier, obviously, to get accessories for devices that are flat than it is for curved displays, because the curved display requires specifically like glass protectors or even screen protectors. They need to be specifically made for those. My biggest thing, though, is also the fact that, where do they place their fingerprint sensor? So from a display side, if the fingerprint sensor is under it and you're getting a glass protector for a curved display, sometimes you're going to find those that are basically an adhesive all around the edges and not necessarily on the display, and they put in maybe a little bit of an adhesive over the fingerprint sensor. The implementation is never, I feel like, the best. Flat displays always get the best experiences. So I'm with you. Michael jumping back. Okay, so the curves don't really bother me these days. I think it's the software is catching up, and I don't get the accidental touches, which I think, yeah, definitely. It's not a deal breaker for me either. But not a big selling point either. I think we need to kind of move on from making it sound like it's the premium. It still only exists typically in premium devices, but it is something to keep in mind. It's like, is it something that you're looking for? I think from the fact. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the reason why it's on premium devices is because the yield rate. I don't think they yield very high units, meaning in the production of a display that is curved, they will have more failures and more throwaways than they do typically with a flat panel. So that's also something that I think that kind of keeps them in there as well. El Josa, hey man, good morning, hello, El Sabajo, everybody, welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Greg is jumping back here. I must say, I really don't mind the curved display on the Pixel 6 Pro. I thought I would dislike it, but not that bad. It definitely, like I said, we've had them long enough that it's something that we can transition into. The Pixel 6 Pro has it very nice. And again, a good case and a good software support to make sure that you don't have any accidental touches will fix most of the problem. I don't think it's as big of a concern for us a lot. I never experienced ghost touches. So here, the reason why I was kind of surprised, because the 7 Pro was the one phone that was plagued with a lot of people having ghost touching on the OnePlus 7 Pro. Well, what I would probably ask on this one question, Finn, on your OnePlus 7 Pro, are you using a case? And the second question that I have on that one, is it a thin profile or a thicker case? Typically, people that have the thicker case, just by definition of having it, like an example would be something like this. Our hands, by definition, are raised away from the curved edge. So you typically don't get that ghost touching as much. Low profile or maybe skins, if somebody likes to get skins installed, those typically provide more of a close connection to the display, and that's what usually triggers it a little bit more. Most of the reviewers that I've ever seen show us the ghost touching are showing it to us on a phone that's not in a case, or using a very thin case. So I'd be interested what you have on your device or what you had on yours. TNC saying, yes, the Mate 30 had the massive curve when I used it at launch, at the launch event in Germany. It was an amazing phone. We must have been at the same place then, because I was at the launch event for the Mate 30 Pro in Germany. That was the last event that I covered for Huawei before our trip over to the main office in Shenzhen. But the biggest thing, hey, I just realized the camera is actually sitting slightly off right there. Okay. So we must have been at the same event. I don't know if we ran into each other during that time or not. Sorry for that weird message. That was that's what you get when you try to use voice typing. Dude, I've had the story. Voice typing, not a. I mean, it's a good feature, but like seriously, if you're not using it on a Pixel, you're gonna get some weird messages every once in a while. I still get it when I'm like the description for the video that I typically do for every for the Saturday morning show and so on. I use voice to type functions on my smartphones, and the weirdest thing, every time I say the Android Bay, it keeps thinking I'm saying the Android Pay. It hasn't corrected it. Now I corrected it on my Pixel. Pixel has the ability of learning words. That works. But any other device that I use, voice to text, it's an interesting approach. And if you're using a non Gboard function, I also find that it's a little bit hit and miss, but depending on the phone that you're using. I kind of like buying a ticket. I kind of like buying a ticket. Yeah, no, for sure. That happens to me all the time. I've had a glass screen protector on my Galaxy S20 from S20, and it would not stick on the phone. And oh, okay. So it depends on you have to make sure you get something that has full adhesive. This is the biggest problem. If it has an external display, like an outline adhesive, those typically, I mean, again, you're only as good as how clean the display is. The casing, that's the other thing which a lot of people forget. Glass protectors, when you install them, they are intended to stay in one spot. Now they are, technically glued, or a certain adhesive is keeping them there. But when you put a case on that's bumping against it, it's actually going to start peeling part of the glass, which will compromise the integrity of it. And depending on if you had the case on before it cured all the way, that could also cause some of those issues as well. Russ, hey, Russ is in the chat. Everybody, hi, say good morning to Russ, or Sabaho. TK, how is the speakers on the S22 Ultra? Let me double check here. On the S22 Ultra, some say that it's not as good as last year's compared to other flagship devices. Loud, clear. I mean, I'll say this: my biggest change that I've had to adapt from last year to this year, the vibration motor is not as good. I felt like the S21 Ultra had a stronger vibration motor, and I've missed more notifications from the phone in my pocket on the new S22 Ultra, the Note 22 Ultra, from the vibration motor. Speaker-wise, though, seriously, gets loud enough. I'll say this. If you're doing a head-to-head comparison, it may not hit the same level, but they're in the point where they're so loud that it's up there. The sound is very good. The speakers actually have a decent amount of like a good amount of bass into them. It's not like bassy. It's not like going to bounce the table, but I wouldn't call them bad. I wouldn't call the speakers on the S22 Ultra bad speakers. It's again, S21 Ultra, Note 20 Ultra experience, just elevated to this year. I've played them actually pretty loud. Most like when I'm sitting and playing games, that's typically how loud they are. Or if I'm watching content in the car, that's usually how I have it play. So I haven't had really issues where people are saying like it's bad as far as the speaker. It's going to be an experience. You're going to have to experience it and try it out, of course. Dominic, good morning, good afternoon, Dominic. Hope you're doing well. We talked about we mentioned you earlier in the show. Sabaho, hope everybody's doing good. Thank you, man. Appreciate you kicking it with us here. Oh man, Russ kicking it back here. Okay, Dominic, Russ speaker on the S21 Plus is not as great either. It depends really on the experience. And I don't want to get like, hold on. Let me show you guys an example would be with this. So I'm going to play the video from yesterday's introduction. Let's go back here. I'm going to go into mine just to kind of show you guys the audio performance. What channel am I? Oh no, I just realized. No, I am on the right one. What am I talking about? Here, this is community. I'm gonna jump into video. Oh, I forgot to throw the link the link to the stream in the community tab. Okay, I will do that later because I don't. Anyway, so here, this is the video from yesterday. Yep, and I don't want to put commercials and then get that conversation going on. Okay, 1 second. I'm just going to show you guys how here. So here we are.
Today, we're going to talk about desktop experiences, specifically DEX running on the S22 Ultra or the Note 22 Ultra, and Ready for running on the Motorola Edge Plus 2022. Both of them are running Android 12.
It's loud. To me, it's loud enough, clear enough, and I can hear the background music. I can hear the entire audio, and it's not distorting my sound at the high level. Again, this was 100%. Now I understand my voice is not going to be the best performance experience, but if there's a reference point, it's not the best on the market, but it's also pretty good. That's the best way to say it. Here, Finn. So, okay, when I hold my 7 Pro, so the OnePlus 7 Pro, with the charging port on the left side, on the left landscape, it sounds worse than when the charging port is on the right. Really? That's interesting. Okay, so because if you think about it, the charging port has the side firing speaker, right? So when you have it facing the other way, it should sound less depending on how, if you're holding the phone. Like an example would be here. Like I say, if you're holding the phone with the charging port on this end, you're typically getting the sound bouncing off your hand coming to you. But if you hold it to the other side, it's filling up the room. Now I understand depending on how you're holding it, this may be a better position. But typically the earpiece on the top is the one that's facing us, and the other one is the one that's providing 90% of the mids and lows on the speaker. So your best performance is always going to be on the bottom firing speaker, unless you're on a Sony, which then both of them are front facing. I'm interested to. Okay, it's interesting. I haven't used the 7 Pro for quite some time, so I can't really comment on it. I know that typically I like to make sure that the bottom firing speaker always, whenever I'm holding the phones, I always hold them in this form, and I have it bounce off my hand to give me that loudness directly. Or if I'm putting it on the table, face it down so that it bounces off. It's all about acoustics and creating surfaces that are conducive to bouncing audio and give you a better experience. So for sure. Dominic, the only thing I noted about the Samsung is their updates on the unlocked phones are super fast. So they're much faster and more consistent. Although they're pretty close to being neck and neck with carrier updates. Samsung has had some deals where carriers are not too far behind from the unlocked. Although we will more than likely get the unlocked faster when it's rolling out because it's not running on the same rolling deployment plan that they have on other devices. Oh crap! Yes, we are getting close. Yeah. So it is around the 120 minutes of the show. As you know, we've done this. We've been doing it for years. If you're new, you haven't checked it out before, obviously this is something new. There's a thing that we like to do on the show. It's called the TKception. You're probably going to start seeing some hashtags in the comments talking about that and kind of going through some of those experiences. I'll share. You'll see what I mean in a few minutes. So I'll let everybody start kind of putting those in there in the chat, and I will definitely kind of start like. I'm not gonna say wrapping up, but kind of like bringing it back in a little bit. So Russ, kind of TK, I've heard that I've seen the complaints about it because it's an X linear, not a Y linear. Yeah, for sure. The vibration motor, I think it's just I don't understand why they did that. It makes no sense for me to change the experience in there. I think with smartphones, especially on the high end, you expect the best experience, but it is very different. If you like the S21 Ultra's vibration motor, this could be a deal breaker. This is definitely one of the things the Note doesn't have. Now, some people may prefer the fact that it is not as strong, but it actually is considerably lower. Like, I mean, seriously, sometimes I've missed notification. Even like for me, I'll be very frank. My phone is on vibration most of the time. Very rarely do I take it off vibration, mostly because I have my smartwatch. Not all the notifications on the phone go to the smartwatch. Like I'll get a text message notification from WhatsApp, but if somebody calls me on WhatsApp, that doesn't push. For some reason, it just doesn't go. So I rely on the phone's vibration wherever it is. If I have it on any kind of soft surface, it's impossible for me to hear it. I have to keep it on a flat surface and hear the phone buzzing on the table, and that's how I pick up on the sound. So it's a different experience. Had I known, would it have changed the experience for me? Would I not get the phone? Honestly, there's so much more things to kind of talk about, but at the end of the day, it is something pretty noticeable right out of the box if you like to have your phone on silent or on vibration. Finn saying that the stereo effect is way worse. Also, I answered to your question about the case, but I think sorry. Yeah, let me see here. Finn. I hold my phone. Okay, no, Okay, so that wasn't it. Hi, Russ. I have. So he does have a D brand grip. So it's the thick case, but because it's the official OnePlus sandstone case, and I didn't have any ghost touches. Interesting. Okay, so the sandstone the sandstone one. Sorry, yeah, I just saw the note. Sorry, thank you, Finn. Let me double check here. Okay. I think it's because it's built. It's built in and it has a different linear motor compared to the previous releases. I'm used to the vibration on my phones and on my phone, and that is loud. Seriously, yeah, I'm used to them being so loud that I can actually hear them over hearing. I prefer hearing them over the ringtone itself. So for sure, it's one of those big things in there. the reality at the end of the day, when we look at a device from a yearly iteration, this is again a decision from them. I have to double check honestly and see if the Note 20 Ultra had a similar vibration motor. Although I don't think it did, I would have noticed it earlier. What we need to see and what we need to appreciate at least is it looks like devices are not gonna slow down in releasing in 2022. It's still Q1. We literally have 1 week left, and we're gonna have a launch coming up before that ends. I think it's literally on the last day of Q1. OnePlus is coming into the US. Realme is pushing the technology of charging 150 watts. Again, if you want to be able to check that out, just check over on my Instagram stories from MWC. It was literally the first one I dropped, and it was right before the launch event starting. The biggest thing that I probably will say is what we see from companies to manage or to provide us the best experiences is going to be a big factor. The 888 and the 8 Gen 1 are both powerful chipsets, but they need a thermal management approach that lets them run at the power level that they need and still keep them at an acceptable temperature. One thing I'll probably say is the Neo 3 GT. One of the reasons why I was mentioning this one, if I'm understanding correctly, it's going to be supported by the MediaTek 8100, the new SoC that they talked about, the MediaTek 8000 chipset, the Dimensity 8000. So the 8100 is going to be the one coming up on that, and I'm excited to see how that works. The Find X5 Pro that I have is a Qualcomm one. International models didn't pick up on this Dimensity 9000, and I haven't had a chance to check out Dimensity. I mean, I was at the launch event of the Dimensity 9000, and we still don't have access to that here in the US. I'm really hoping to see somebody or a company bring that device or that type of technology for us here in the US. So a lot of things going on, and I do want to say I probably think StreamYard is having a hard time bringing up the comments because it's very much delayed on my end. I hope and then Russ also kind of jumping in with, I hope TSMC with the 8 Gen 1 Plus chips makes it a little bit better as opposed to what we see. The reality when you start looking at it though, it's going to be based on the same architecture, 90%. It's a plus, typically overclocked, maybe adding a few functions, but at the end of the day, it's not changing the architecture. It's not changing the entire performance. So we'll have to see if TSMC is able to bring it in, rate it in, and change it big enough in a plus edition of an existing architecture, or will it have to be basically with the 8 Gen 2, or where we see that? I'm also still really wanting to see what is the 7 series and the 6 series from Qualcomm going to look like. Q1 is over, and I feel like this is Q1 for 8 Gen 1. Let's get into those conversations. I want to see the 7 series. I want to see the 6 series. What improvements are we going to start seeing, and how they're going to be able to usher in the new technology, and will they have still the same best bang for the buck type of an experience? So for sure. I'm still waiting for the Dimensity 9000 smartphone global rollout. Oppo only keep the version for in China. No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's always going to be that one, Farhan. Google Pixel Pixel's own users interface will be available in Android 13. Yes. So the UI element that we're seeing within Android 12 is not going. Material U will continue into Android 13. I think that's a big part of what we have there. Oh yeah, the 7 Gen 1 for sure. So let me go ahead and just bring it over to the split screen. We're going to go ahead and real quick. So we're going to do this nice thing that we do on the show. It's called the TKception. It started as a mistake on my end one day trying to share a screen, and I accidentally shared the stream. But it actually did end up doing something very nicely aesthetically on the show that kept it really interesting for everybody in here. So let me go ahead and just find one real quick. Okay, so Greg kicking us off with this. I'll go ahead and share screen, and 1, 2, and wow, right there. So with that being said, I'll say first and foremost, obviously, thank you very much to everybody for hanging out with us on this show. It's been a very busy week. It's been a lot of things going on, way more things coming up, and I'm sure you guys will be very interested in what we have to cover, obviously, next week. I want to try to put out a couple more videos on the Edge Plus before I get a chance to give it back. It goes back to Motorola, and we'll have to see how that kind of goes from there. So thank you very much for everybody hanging out with us. Thank you to Greg, TKception, TK Push next week, Bay. You know how it is. Hey, at least I'm able to say the name of the phone. In the past, I've had it where I couldn't even talk about it. Last Monday on the show with Juan Carlos, he's like, which phone are you using? And I couldn't say that it was this because of a whole embargo thing. So I do apologize for that, but I hope you understand. That's part of the way of the world in that sense. Thank you very much to Finn Jacobs. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you very much for kicking it with us again. Dominic Wong, always happy to have you. Thank you for joining us on the stream. TKception, TKR Bay, TK Super Saiyan Bay, always. TK Samsung Bay. We'll have to find a way to find that love story to come back. Absolutely, man. Always going to be an interesting. And of course, Sebastian Lobos, thank you very much for kicking it with us. TKception. Dragon Goddess, thank you very much. TK Master Tech, absolutely humbling. I appreciate it. And the reality at the end of the day is, we're all in it together, really. We're all trying to kind of get the story, understand, and see the approach, and see what companies are trying to do to either improve our experiences, innovate. Nothing is trying to innovate in this in the field, and I want to see how they're able to do that, of course. Hamid, thank you very much. Ellen, TKHTC. Oh my God, the M9 will always be my favorite, and I really wish HTC would try to come back in a way, but I think they're focusing on all of their. It's like in the ways of LG. It's a company. It's they're in the business, but they're just it's a different approach. Oops, sorry, 1 second. TK Bayception, 150 watt is crazy. It is, but it's not as crazy as the fact as Oppo also showed 240 watts at MWC. Like they're like, if you really want to go fast, we could do the whole thing in 9 minutes. 9 minutes to charge a phone, a 4800 milliampere battery. That is crazy fast. Jimmy Fire Dragon, thank you very much. TKception, TK Bay, TK next week, of course. TK Podcast Bay, stay hydrated, always. I didn't realize, but today I am definitely. It is hydration is always going to be a big part of that. Hamid, thank you very much. Always thank you for everybody for kicking it with us on the show, and of course keeping the support going and keeping it really fun and easy to hang out with you guys and have fun on a weekend. Like I said, next week will be even busier. There's going to be some good content. I'm going to try to push out a video on the Huawei supercomputer. I got hands-on from after the show from MWC, and I want to share with you guys the super device, not supercomputer, super device technology that they're trying to showcase. And it's going to be obviously featuring the P50 Pro. So hopefully that'll come up early next week, and we'll see other things kind of coming up there. But thank you for everybody. Thank you to Finn. Thank you for Dominic. Thank you to Dominic, Jimmy, Marilyn for kicking it with us as well. El Josa, Hamid as well. Russ, Sebastian Lobos there. Dragon Goddess, Hamid again. Farhan, ahlan wa sahlan. Welcome, Russ, Dominic, Finn. Always. I think, and I think we saw Dominic in there. Michael Corrigan. Greg, and I think I'm missing somebody. Hold on, Russ in there. Sam kicking it with us as well. El Josa, and Earl. I think I want to say Earl also kind of kicked it with us. So try to be good, and I know it's hard. It's hard to tell to people to do something in a way. The reality at the end of the day is this: we try to do the best that we can every single day. We don't try to do the worst. We need to learn from our mistakes. We need to do better in the future. And if there is a hard time going on, just know that everything and whatever comes up down our way, we will get through it. And at some point we will do better, and we will be better at some point. So this is why I always say, be safe, stay safe, and do better with your tech. And I hope you're enjoying the hardware or any kind of, technology that you're purchasing to help you do better and be better in life. So with that being said, I'll see you next week for another episode of the Android Bay. Let's go ahead and obviously all keep it up for Monday for the SGTQA with Juan Carlos. And of course, next Thursday, we'll be back with the best of our week. I'm TK. Thank you very much. Sabaho again, even though it's the end of the show, but I'll see you in the next one.